All right, let's jump right in. Today we're tackling one of the biggest ideas from a book that completely changed the game for so many people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And really, it all boils down to this one single powerful shift in how you think. Robert Kiyosaki argues that this one idea, it's the real difference between the rich and, well, everyone else. So let's get into it. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're just spinning your wheels? You work hard, maybe you even get a raise, you pay all your bills, but then you look at your bank account at the end of the month and nothing's really changed. That dream of being financially free just seems to stay on the horizon. Well, that feeling, that endless cycle, that's what the book calls the rat race. And it's a trap so many of us fall into. But here's the thing, and this is the really good news. The way out isn't about working even harder. It's not about getting another promotion or another degree. Nope. It's all about changing the way you think about money. It's this one simple but super powerful shift in your mindset. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. Okay, so the whole book is basically built around this one simple story. It's about the two main father figures in the author's life. You've got his real dad, who he calls his poor dad, and then his best friend's dad, who he calls his rich dad. Now, both of these guys were smart. They both worked incredibly hard, but man, their ideas about money were polar opposites. So these two dads, they basically represent two totally different ways of life. Poor dad's advice, it's probably what most of us heard growing up, right? You know the drill. Go to school, get good grades, find a safe, secure job. It's all about working for your money. But Rich Dad, he was on a completely different planet. His whole thing was, no, you need to learn how the game of money is played so that you can get your money to start working for you. And this really gets to the core of Poor Dad's whole philosophy. He kind of saw money as this dangerous thing, something to be super cautious about, maybe even something a little bit evil. And when you think like that, what do? Well, you play it safe. You avoid risk. You just focus on that steady paycheck and never really think about building actual wealth. But Rich Dad, he just completely flipped that idea on its head. For him, it wasn't the love of money that was the problem, it was the lack of money. That's what causes stress. That's what makes you miss out on opportunities. He saw being smart with money, financial intelligence, not as being greedy, but as a tool you absolutely need to solve problems and to build a life where you actually have choices. All right, so all of this brings us to the absolute core lesson of the entire book. This is the big one. It's the one secret that, once it clicks, can literally change everything for you. And the craziest part? It's so simple. Here it is. The rich don't work for money. They spend their time acquiring assets. That's the whole game. See, while most people are focused on their paycheck, the money they earn from their job, the rich are focused on something else entirely. Their asset column. They're using their energy and their money to buy things that will make more money. So obviously the key here is to know what an asset really is. So let's start with what an asset isn't. Let's talk about a liability. A liability, in the simplest terms, is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Super simple, right? Think about your car payment, your student loans, credit card debt, even that gym membership you never use. Every single month, these things are just pulling money away from you. Okay, so an asset is the exact opposite. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. It's something that generates income for you even when you're not actively working. We're talking about things like a rental property that brings in rent checks, or stocks that pay you dividends, or maybe a business that you've built that runs on its own. It's a money-making machine. And here's the example that really blows people's minds and shows the difference perfectly. Most of us are told our whole lives that our house is our biggest asset, right? Well, Rich Dad says, no way. He argues your primary home is actually your biggest liability. And why is that? Because every single month, it takes money out of your pocket. You've got the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, the repairs. It's a constant drain. It never puts a single dollar in your pocket. A house you rent out to someone else, though, now that's an asset. And this, right here, is the fundamental trap that keeps people stuck. It's the difference between thinking like a consumer and thinking like an investor. Most people spend their lives and their paychecks buying liabilities, a fancier car, a bigger house, the latest gadgets, and they think they're getting ahead, but they're not. At the same time, the wealthy are just laser focused on one thing and one thing only, buying more assets. Okay, so how does knowing all this actually help you escape that rat race we were talking about at the beginning? Well, it basically gives you a brand new roadmap. It shows you that the real path to freedom isn't just about earning a bigger paycheck. It's about building a bigger asset column. So let's look at how you do that. The game plan is actually pretty simple. Step 1, you have to get this difference between an asset and a liability deep into your brain. I mean, you have to live and breathe it. Then you keep your day job, that's your funding source, and you use that income not to buy more stuff, but to consistently buy assets. And you just keep doing that. You keep building and building that asset column until, eventually, the money it throws off every month is more than enough to cover all your living expenses. And that moment, that's when you're free. And this really shows you what that looks like in practice. For most people, money is a one-way street. Your income comes in from your job, and whoosh, it flows right back out to pay for expenses and liabilities. But for the wealthy, it's a completely different picture. It's a cycle. Their assets generate income. And what do they do with that income? They use it to buy, you guessed it, more assets. And that creates this incredible, self-perpetuating loop of wealth. And it's so important to remember, the real goal here isn't just about having a huge pile of money. It's about being free. It's about getting to that incredible point where you don't have to trade your time for a paycheck anymore. Financial freedom means you wake up in the morning and you get to decide how you spend your day, because your assets are doing all the heavy lifting for you. So I'll leave you with this one last question to really think about. When you look at your own life, your own finances through this new lens, what's really an asset and what's a liability? What's putting money in your pocket and what's taking it out? Seriously, take a moment to answer that for yourself. Because that answer, that could be the very first step on your own journey to freedom.